This is CBN NewsWatch.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm George Thomas. We begin in the Middle East, where the vote in Israel is split in the nation's second election in 6 months, with each candidate winning 32 seats in the government. We go to Chris Mitchell and our Middle East Bureau team for more. Chris, you guys monitored the election all night. What was it like?
Well, George, it was an interesting experience at the Likud headquarters. About 10 o'clock, the exit polls came out, and it was really kind of a somber atmosphere there. And we had to wait actually another 5 hours before Bibi Netanyahu came and delivered what was sort of a rallying speech, perhaps. But really, it's inconclusive right now. The results are tied in many ways, and how this unfolds is really going to be the major question in the next days and weeks. And John, we have been talking too about some of the divisions within Israeli society, and it really played out in this election.
Well, absolutely. And as the negotiations for a government go forward, I think the secular versus religious divide is going to be one of the primary factors, because the religious parties won a lot of seats in the election, but they may be shut out of the government if they try and form a secular unity government between the two larger parties and some smaller ones. So the secular religious divide over issues such as drafting ultra-Orthodox in the military and public transportation on the Sabbath, civil marriages, those kinds of things are all going to come into play here, and it's going to anger the religious parties if they're shut out. The other thing is that the Arab Party, the Joint List, became the third largest party in the Knesset, and Julie, that has implications not only for the peace process, but for domestic things going on here.
It has huge implications. It does. Because because Likud and the Blue and White Party might form a unity government, that means that the Arab parties will be the largest opposition in the Knesset. It'll be the first time for that. And that means they are, by law, they get a security briefing. That means they'll be privy to all the security, everything that's going on in the country. And that raises a lot of questions for a lot of Israelis. It's not that Israel is racist. There are plenty of Arabs in the Knesset. There's a Supreme Court judge, all those kind of things. But a lot of the Arab Knesset members in these groups are, virulently anti-Israel, they're anti-Zionist, they're anti-Jewish. So that kind of raises a lot of questions for Israel.
That's right. And not to forget, George, the overall tone in the Middle East right now, the possibility of a regional war, that's all overshadowing these elections, which are really strategic and really so important for the future and the fate of Israel and the Middle East. So back to you. We'll be covering all this, as well as I know you over there, about these important elections here in Israel.
Terrific. We certainly will be. Thank you, Chris, my man in Jerusalem with his team. One other item from the region. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is in Saudi Arabia today as tensions in the region continue to escalate following weekend attacks on oil facilities in the Royal Kingdom. The Pentagon has reportedly given President Trump a menu of options to respond to the attacks on the world's largest oil-producing facility. Saudi Arabia's defense minister says the attack was unquestionably sponsored by the Islamic regime. And in fact, during a press conference today, showed parts, you can see that right there, parts of an Iranian cruise missile and drones that he claims were used in Saturday's attacks. Tehran has denied being involved and warned America it would retaliate if targeted over it. President Trump says he's naming Robert O'Brien to be his new national security advisor. As the special presidential envoy for hostage affairs at the State Department, O'Brien worked closely with the families of American hostages and advised administration officials on hostage issues. Trump tweeted Wednesday that O'Brien will do a great job. Trump's announcement about O'Brien comes a week after he ousted John Bolton from the National Security Advisor's post, citing policy disagreements. Planned Parenthood's commitment to abortion is demonstrated in its latest dispute with its former CEO, Dr. Leana Wen. Wen just resolved her dispute with Planned Parenthood on Monday, but not before she had challenged the organization for trying to silence her. She tweeted she was disappointed her confidential letter was leaked to the New York Times, but that she would not be forced to resign. Would not be forced to sign a gag clause and compromise her integrity. Wen was fired for not aggressively pursuing Planned Parenthood's abortion agenda. A new study released today shows abortion rates at an all-time low. The report from the Guttmacher Institute counted 862,000 abortions in the U.S. in 2017. By the way, that's down from 926,000 in 2014 and from just 1 million in 2011. Charlene Aaron has been following this story and joins us now with what's behind the decline. Charlene.
That's right, George. This report shows that the country's abortion rate has dropped to its lowest level since Roe v. Wade passed nearly 50 years ago. It found that abortions are decreasing in all parts of the country, whether in Republican-controlled or Democratic-run states. Several states, as we've reported here on CBN News, including Alabama and Louisiana, have recently passed laws that outlaw abortions once a fetal heartbeat has been detected. Similar laws have passed in Kentucky, Mississippi, Ohio, and Georgia, and they're all aimed at challenging Roe v. Wade. But Guttmacher's research scientist Rachel Jones says those restrictions are not what's driving the lower abortion rate. The anti-abortion activists will try to take credit for this decline, but for the facts that don't support their argument, she said. She went on to say this means fewer people became pregnant, not that individuals chose or were made to give birth rather than have an abortion. Meanwhile, pro-lifers are applauding the lower numbers regardless of the reasons why. Students for Life tweeted, "The abortion rate has hit a record low. We will continue to work every single day to abolish every abortion." And Clark Forsyth of Americans United for Life says, "I'm sure there are many factors that have contributed to the decline. Some state laws do contribute to a reduction in abortion." One instance that numbers went up was the use of the so-called abortion pill instead of surgery. That rose from 29% in 2014 to 39% of all abortions in 2017. George?
Thank you so much, Charlene. Joining us now for more is Tina Whittington of Students for Life. Welcome to NewsWatch, Tina. First off, your reaction to the story we talked about just before Charlene's piece on former Planned Parenthood President Dr. Leana Wen and her battle with the abortion giant. Your take?
Well, Planned Parenthood's #1 objective is abortion, abortion, abortion. And when she would not stick to and adhere to their political agenda, and she wanted to focus on women and real healthcare, it just wasn't a good fit. And it's not a surprise that that organization would go after her personally and put her in this kind of situation.
Tina, what do you make of these new numbers we just reported on the abortion rates at their lowest levels ever?
I am totally excited about this. I think it shows that as a pro-life movement, we're winning. When we talk about all the different reasons why the rates might be lower, I think it has a lot to do with the momentum of the pro-life movement. We have more educational efforts than ever before, changing culture, changing public opinion. We have great resources for women who find themselves in an unexpected pregnancy, more than ever before. And then lastly, we are in a new era of pro-life legislation and pro-life states that are pushing forward laws that protect women, but also protect the preborn.
On that very matter, the report says recent state restrictions on abortion are not the reason for the lower numbers. You explained a little bit about what you see driving those numbers lower. Do you think that they will be lower even in the future?
I believe so. I think as we continue to educate the population, Live Action's done great work with educating people about how the abortion procedures have been done. We've got the movie Unplanned out there. I think that we are chipping away at this from legislative, but also a cultural perspective. And so I think this pro-life generation is bigger than ever before. We have over 1,200 groups across the country doing amazing work. I think as we see the youth move forward, and side with us on life. We did a polling in January. Only 7% of millennials side with Planned Parenthood and the Democratic Party's radical abortion on demand, paid by your tax dollars, and that's a very small percentage.
It's been reported that some women are crossing state lines in order to have abortions. Tina, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so it happens in a lot of states. Actually, crossing state lines isn't a new phenomenon. When they have to drive far for an abortion, that's what they do. I think it helps if a woman has a little bit more time to consider the life of her child, her own health, an opportunity to pause and think about her own circumstances. All those things work to decrease someone's propensity to choose abortion and gives them that time to figure out, how can I choose life? How can I be empowered to choose life? And I feel like the pro-life movement stands behind her and empowers her to do just that. And some might still go across those state lines, but having to drive that far for other women is going to help them choose life.
Yeah, we have less than a minute here. You know, with more abortion clinics closing and more state restrictions on abortion, what's next for the pro-life movement?
I think it's defunding Planned Parenthood, and that's been what we've been saying for probably the last 10 years here at Students for Life, but defund Planned Parenthood. We know when we defund Planned Parenthood, actually Texas, they took away Planned Parenthood's funding in 2011, their grants, and the birth rate for minors fell by 49% in that time from 2011 to 2017, and the minor abortion rate fell by over 57%. I think we need to get rid of Planned Parenthood. We need to defund them of our tax dollars.
Okay, Tina, thank you so much for coming on the show. Appreciate your insights.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The California Senate passed a resolution telling Christian clergy to accept and support LGBTQ ideology, even if doing so violates their Christian beliefs. Democrat State Assemblyman Evan Law introduced Assembly Concurrent Resolution 99, or ACR 99, as a way to gather support for LGBTQ identity and behaviors. Russell Willingham, Executive Director of New Creation Ministries, told CBN News he believes ACR 99 will criminalize pastor caregivers like me who provide such a resource. The resolution also condemns conversion therapy, calling it harmful. Roger Gunham with the Liberty Counsel says there are many cases that prove otherwise. Quote, we have actual patients and clients who have benefited from therapy to help them with their unwanted attractions. We've helped them change their lives. An opinion piece in a Toronto paper says eating Chick-fil-A will, quote, increase the suffering of queer kids. Another line from a tweet of the article read, Chick-fil-A has released a poison into the city, and goes on to criticize the restaurant. Chick-fil-A just opened its first store in Canada earlier this month. About 75 people were protesting the popular chain, either over animal rights or over gay rights, offended by what they described as Chick-fil-A's alleged stance against LGBTQ rights. They were outnumbered by hundreds of people who lined up overnight to get in first. Celebrating the U.S. Constitution and why the founders' idea of decentralized federal government is more important than ever for the nation's future. That story when we return.
Remember for a moment what it was like to be a child. You believed every story you were told. You saw a world full of endless possibilities. What stories will the world's orphaned and at-risk children believe? We believe the Bible tells the only story truly worth believing. We believe that every child should have the opportunity to dream, the chance to take challenges and turn them into possibilities, the chance to stand on the promises of God, to recognize their place in the greatest story ever told. They have their whole lives ahead of them. Theirs is a world of endless possibilities. They are looking for a story to believe. We will tell them that story. Will you join us?
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. Principles of a strong three-system branch of government, inalienable rights and freedoms of religion, speech and liberty are cornerstones of the U.S. Constitution, which is celebrated this week. But are they at risk in today's America? Mark Meckler, president of Citizens for Self-Governance and Convention of States, joins me to discuss this topic. Welcome to the show, Mark. First of all, Mark, you say the founders they really didn't want big centralized government, did not want big centralized government. What would they say about where we are today?
Well, we're pretty certain they would be stunned. The two proponents of the main arguments, Hamilton and Jefferson, both agreed that if the federal government could do something, the states couldn't. They agreed on this. And today we have this overlapping bureaucracy, federal, state, and local level everywhere. They would all be appalled by the size and scope of the federal government today.
What would they think about the Democrat Party's leaning towards socialism?
Well, they would be horrified by it. They were primarily individualists. They were people who believed in the primacy of the family, private rights, private property, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, less government control, not more. And so I think they would be pretty stunned by that movement.
What do Americans and their leaders need to remember about our great nation and Constitution and our rights endowed by our Creator?
I think the most important thing is that the average Constitution's life since 1789, the year of our Constitution, has been 17 years. The U.S. Constitution is celebrating its 232nd anniversary. And that's because of its reliance on fundamental principles. We should always look back to those principles, rely upon those principles while moving forward to be a better nation.
It is Constitution Week. Tell us how folks can learn more about this priceless document celebrating freedom.
Well, my opinion is they should go to conventionofstates.com. They can read the Constitution and the Declaration, and they can understand the things that we can do to restore our constitutional form of governance.
Fantastic. Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Still ahead, imagine getting a friend request from God. How would it change your life and others? That story in a moment.
Give me that. Bye. Sure, life is busy, but I found a way to make a huge difference in people's lives. I guess you could say I'm changing the world right here from home. I bring medical supplies and doctors to people in need, and dig wells so that villagers can have clean and safe water to drink. I make it possible to preach the gospel in over 100 countries, including right here in America. And when disaster strikes, I'm there, providing food, thank you, and emergency supplies to give people hope again. Every day, CBN and I are making the world a better place. Here you go. My life is hectic, so I joined CBN through Pledge Express. My bank does all the work, and I know that my gift is being used where it's needed most. So become a CBN partner and join Pledge Express, because you can do a world of good right from where you are. Hi, good morning. Are you ready to get started?
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Protect your sleep and live your best life with innovative information from 5 leading sleep experts.
If you're not a great sleeper, you can do things to make yourself a great sleeper. If you're already a pretty good sleeper, you can enhance your sleep and be even better.
Discover a sleep-enhancing bedtime routine, how to put insomnia to rest, learn how to relieve pain that disturbs sleep, and much more in Protect Your Sleep.
Everything you do better with a good night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
Don't miss out on this brand new series.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
Hello, everyone. This is the CBN News Channel. Welcome back to the show. It is a TV show all about an unlikely friend request on social media. by Almighty God himself and how he uses it to work in the lives of people. God Friended Me is up for a second season. Here's a look at what to expect with Studio 5's Ephraim Graham.
Miles Finer, someone calling themselves God, sent me your name. Classic God account.
Train her in the ways of the God account.
I don't want any part of this.
If you want to hear more about that, you're going to have to tune into the second season.
And so begins the CBS series God Friended Me.
Rolling.
Starring Brandon Michael Hall, who we visited on set in New York City.
Miles Finer, how big of a stretch is this character for Brandon and Michael Hall?
No, Miles is a big stretch. I grew up in a household full of religion, and I grew up going to church at least 3 to 4 or 5 times a day on a Sunday, you know. So to go from going from understanding what faith and religion means to me, and then playing a role where it's completely taken away and he's finding his own way back, I think it's a huge opportunity for me to learn a lot, you know. First, I'm learning about the Bible, I'm learning about other religions, other spiritualities, but I'm also gaining a closer understanding with myself, you know. So those are the roles you really want to sink your teeth into.
Let me get this straight. You're being catfished by someone calling themselves God on Facebook.
Yes, and I need your hacker skills to give me their IP address.
Keep your voice. How many times I gotta tell you, I'm not a hacker, okay? I'm a video game enthusiast. Okay, what do you know?
This is the set for where Miles Finer works, Identity Seal, a company charged with safeguarding people's identity. At the same time, Miles is struggling with a big part of who he used to be, and something his father still is. He's the son of a preacher who is still holding fast to the faith, not really able to sort of explain to him why he is the way he is.
Right.
Have you ever been in a moment where you're like, you know, a crisis faith moment?
Absolutely. I've had a lot of I've had a lot of personal moments in my life where I've been able to draw to get into this character. And I find that those moments, those kind of 0 point moments, those aha moments, those moments when the world seems just a little bit big and it feels like no one's on your side in a sense, or you're just going through a lot. Those are the moments where we learn the most about ourselves, because we get to see ourselves at a complete transparency. And that's where Miles is right now, is that after the loss of his mom and trying to be as transparent with his dad, but not seeing eye to eye, he's in a place where he's looking for something to pour that hurt, those feelings into. Along comes the friend suggestion, and the way to pour back into it is to help people.
I don't know who's behind this or why they chose me. They sent me names. They want me to help people. Hey, somebody stop that guy!
Seeing preachers deliver sermons is what inspired an acting career for you?
Yeah, someone had asked, it was like, yo, so how did you get into acting? And for a long time, it was like, yeah, you know, I got bit by the bug when I was this age and this, that, and the third. And I was like, well, what really propelled me? Like, when did it really start? And I remember in acting class in theater history, we talked about how if you look at a church, no matter where you go, even from a bird's eye view, the layout of it looks like a stage. And I was like, well, that's where I spent most of my time. And so when I thought about growing up in the church, I was like, well, that must be where it started for me.
Look, the 3 of you set out to do something special. It's not too late.
So now as you sit here with all this buzz around the show doing well, how are you feeling?
Blessed. I can't wrap my head around it. And the love that we're getting from it, the love and the support that we're getting from everyone who's commenting, it blows my mind. I don't think I've actually had the opportunity to sit back and really appreciate, you know? I feel humble. I just feel humble. I have no words for it.
People say that God has a plan for all of us. Well, I never believed that to be true. But then he friended me, and it kind of turned my life upside down. Not that I think it's God, but in these crazy times we live in, we owe it to ourselves to ask the tough questions.
You can catch more entertainment news tonight on Studio 5 with Ephraim Graham, right here on the CBN News Channel at 9:30 Eastern. The First Lady oversees a little sprucing up at the People's House. We'll show you more coming up.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As the nations rage,
you can stand with Israel.
History is being written, and I want to be a part of it.
Call 1-800-700-7000 and get to life.
This is our nature as a country.
Discover the untold story of how Israeli volunteers are changing the world.
We consider it our duty to reach out and help others around the world.
For a gift of $10 or more, you can own the acclaimed CBN documentary To Life.
To treat a human, no matter what he is, which religious he have, which color he is, this is what I'm doing.
Support Israel in their time of need. Get to Life, now available on DVD. Call 1-800-700-7000 or log on to cbn.com.
And I wish that other people throughout the world could see this side of Israel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Check out the CBN News Daily Rundown podcast each weekday with me, Caitlin Burke. Click on the show tab at cbnnews.com where you can listen and subscribe.
Welcome back to the CBN News Channel. The White House has undergone a little makeover in some of its most public rooms. First Lady Melania Trump will have some fresh new touches to show off at the second state dinner later this week for the Trump presidency. There's refreshed wall fabric in the red room, repurposed draperies in the green room, and restored furniture in the blue room. Sunlight streaming into the red room had left some of the wall fabric so faded it was almost pink, said Stuart McLaren, president of the White House Historical Association, which helps finance upkeep of some rooms in the 132-room mansion. And those are just some of the home improvement projects for the busy public rooms at the People's House. First Lady Jacqueline Kennedy founded the private nonprofit organization in 1961. Historians say the projects there were long overdue. Well, folks, that is it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember, you can find more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, tell us what you think about the stories you have seen here by emailing newswatch@cbn.com. Or perhaps you have a story idea for myself or any of the reporters. Please reach out to us. Or you can talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Folks, we hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. From all of us here in the CBN News studio and back in the control room, have a fantastic rest of the day. And remember, God bless you.